It's the Anfield Wrap, as it's been confirmed that Christian Benteke is basically going to have a medical payment schedules have been sorted out. This is all on the Echo website, which means you can trust in that. What else? And that supposedly personal terms have been agreed. So there's a medical Monday, Tuesday. This is Sunday as we're recording this. As I say, it's just broken. It's interesting to mention the Echo. Steve Graves is here. He's currently writing a list of 13 things you don't know about Christian Benteke. Is that accurate, Steve?
27 pictures that show why Christian Benteke is the ideal signing for Liverpool.
Splendid. That's exactly the way this business works.
Let me write these down.
Really good to have him in. We've got Steve Graves and Paul Cope. Opening question comes from Gareth Roberts. The only downer about the opening question really is that it's one of our regulars, but it's a good one, and it's the one that we want to do. It's what item of clothing do you consider to be your worst ever purchase, and why? What item of clothing your worst ever purchase, and why? Paul Cope first.
There's probably loads over the years, but the first one that jumped into my head was I remember when I was about 17, 18, going to Paradox. Those
starts well.
Days, they were great.
Just to explain to non-Liverpool based listeners, the Paradox was effectively an enormous warehouse in Aintree on an industrial estate, which turned the blindest of eyes to the people between the ages of 15 and 17 drinking. Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, I've got a great story about that actually. I remember once, because we had my mates' older brother's IDs to get in, and once we went and they knocked us back for being underage, even with the IDs. So we went round the corner and swapped shirts with each other and came back and got in.
That's phenomenal.
I think that just sums up the Paradox really. And then the item of clothing was, I don't even know where this came from. I must have seen something.
That's great ingenuity, by the way. If you're listening to this, kids, this is the thing to think about.
It's an early sign of problem solving, isn't it? I used that in interviews going forward for years. Well, there was this one time. I don't know where I'd seen them, but I ended up getting them, and I got them on my mum's catalogue as well, which is a great place to get your clothes, kids, if you're listening. It was a pair of
There's been good advice and bad advice. If you're under 16 in the last 2 minutes, there's been good advice and bad advice.
A pair of they were it's hard to describe them, but they were checked trousers. But it wasn't as if everybody else was doing it at the time. I think I was doing that thing where you're trying to be different to stand out. I was only little and stuff, so you think I like being different to the crowd, so I'll do this thing. And they were just
like a golfer sort of look.
Yeah, a little bit that's probably the closest.
Like a tight check or a big.
Lots and lots of check.
Right. Okay.
So big and little on the same trouser.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. To the extent that
like a magic eye thing.
Yeah, I remember the first night I wore them, because I think I did wear them multiple nights before I realised this isn't working. Some people came up to get a photo with me in them, and at 18 you can misinterpret that. So you're thinking this is great, they're working, it's gone to plan this. And then weeks later I thought, oh yeah, maybe it's because I look like a knobhead. Yeah. I'll see if I can dig out a photo.
Oh my word, that's spectacular stuff. Steve Graves, what's the worst item of clothing that you've your worst ever purchase?
Mine's this summer. I went out to get my summer wardrobe, which is 3 t-shirts, and I went. I'm at a funny age. I don't really know which shops I should be going.
Don't get me started. Yeah. Don't get me started.
So I sort of Zara seems like, I don't know. Is that the one?
Yeah, Zara,
sort of early mid 30s.
Yeah, but I've noticed in recent times Zara's quite tight fitting, so it's difficult.
Well,
I would refer to their fit as unforgiving.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to they had all these t-shirts folded up. Looked at one. It had a nice sort of summery image. Little patterny thing on it. It looked nice. It looked like exactly the kind of thing I was going for my summer. I got home and unfolded it, and I saw it at the bottom. It's got the word beach vibes with a hashtag beach vibes on it, and it's like. That's not what I wanted to stop it. I don't want to walk around with
you're
that.
Very much
with
hashtag,
that on me.
You're very much hashtag concrete vibes.
Yes. So yeah, always unfold things before you actually
before you go all in.
Yeah, some more advice.
I like that it turned into an advice show.
Yeah, very much so. I've got loads of these brightly coloured trousers I'll have a go at every now and again, and always fail. I bought a pair of off the internet about 6 months ago. We did send them back, so I didn't keep them, but I bought a pair of red kecks. And my word, I put them on once, and I probably should have taken a picture just to go, just maybe as a reminder. You know what I mean? Maybe as
warning from history.
Yeah, very emphatically a warning from history. I've got them in my locker. I've got shoes with more than one colour on in my locker. That's never a good look for any man. Really, if we're all honest about it. I've got no end to all of this sort of stuff. I've got issues around stuff that fits, stuff that doesn't fit. Honestly, so yeah. But I'd probably go with those red kecks. Though thankfully, because they were from the internet, I could have sent them back. If I'd have bought them in a shop, I'd have just seen it through.
Yeah,
I'd have just currently now have a pair of red kecks in my wardrobe that I never wear. But yeah, that's why we went for that opening question. There was another one we were considering. Let me just find it and find the name, just to say that we're not obviously just picking people who contribute to the shows. It is Stuart Wright, who does actually has contributed to one show and hopefully be doing more soon. So that's put me in my place. What new subject would you introduce at school and why? What were you going to? You said you had one for that, Paul.
Yeah, it's not as funny as my trouser story. Just like being nice and that.
Decency.
Yeah,
decency.
Just like teaching people to like. I was good at maths and stuff when I was a kid, and I was looking at like scientific calculators.
Yeah,
they've got sine and cosine and all that on. And I said to my wife the other week, the way I used to know what all that was, like to a really high level, I haven't got a clue anymore. So that was just a waste of time. I
haven't got the faintest idea.
Just a waste of time. And at one point, you could have sat down with me and I'd have baffled you about it because of like all this stuff. But it's completely useless to my entire life. And so I think they should scrap all that sort of stuff for most kids and just teach them like please and thank you and all that again.
I was good at sine and cosine and yeah. Scientific calculus.
Do you remember what it is? Do you remember?
Absolutely nothing.
No, nothing. That's
absolutely
it. Like
nothing.
I said, I couldn't even like give you like a rough idea anymore.
It's got to be something to do with geometry.
So isn't that a waste of? Isn't that just a waste of everyone's time?
I can still do algebra.
Yeah,
I could still do algebra if it needs to do algebra. I could do algebra to not to a decent level, but I could still do. I could do simultaneous equations and all that. I think.
Yeah,
got no idea what that is. That's what you're laughing at over there. Can you not? I thought you'd be all over.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed.
Are you surprised?
What, that Neil could do algebra? I don't know. I feel like I'd like to put it to the test.
Yeah. We should do another quiz night just with algebra.
Just the algebra. Just the algebra. We're all a bit giddy because Liverpool have bought a centre forward. He's not the centre forward that I bought, Steve Graves. In that, if you'd have said to me in May, this is the centre forward Liverpool are going to buy, I'd have been a bit like, not sure about that. But there's the art of the possible, I think, to a certain extent here, and. I'm struggling to. I'm struggling to think of the. And also, buying centre forwards is always exciting. They're the lads who put the ball in the back of the net. Goals are called goals because they are the goal.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to think of a better one that we could have signed. I can think of ones with different profiles who you might have said, okay, they might fit better in some way. Although I think it's overstated the extent to which Benteke doesn't run in behind. He is quick. He's not actually as big as he is in your head. If you look at his sort of upper body, he's not just built to be a strong sort of target man. He can run quite fast, albeit he's got other things to his game. If you look at his goal return since he came into England, I think is it like fourth out of everyone. I think there's like Aguero, Suarez, and a couple of others above him, and then it's him. So in terms of attainable targets, someone who wanted to come and play for us. I think he's about the best.
Yeah,
there's you can make arguments for others. I know lots of people like Lacazette. Don't know anything about him really.
I like the
so it's fine.
I like the profile and look at Lacazette, but fundamentally we're back to the art of the possible, Paul. The idea that it's who else we could have got. It feels vaguely like. It feels like a lot of things, but go on, you talk and then I'll talk.
Yeah, I've got loads of stuff on this. I mentioned something similar about Firmino the other week. The one thing to guarantee you'll make most Liverpool fans happy is to buy a lad they've never seen play, who they've never really heard of, for loads of money.
Yeah.
One of my mates said to me the other week, if we'd have bought Firmino for £8 million, everyone would have been absolutely furious. But spend 29 million quid on the same player and everyone's made up. They've never seen him, but he looks great. I saw this stat the other week, because everyone goes mad about the stats then. And I saw this stat the other week about Papi Cisse has got like the fourth best goals per minute ratio in the Premiership behind Aguero and Suarez and people for the past 3 seasons. Yeah. Imagine if you were Fenerbahce signing him. You'd be looking at his stats going, we've never seen this lad play, but he must be unbelievable. Look at these stats.
Yeah.
So I think the whole Lacazette. I heard someone say this on a show the other day. The whole Lacazette thing, and you get carried away in all this yourself. Don't you?
I know I do.
I've never seen him play. Never once seen him play. But I'd have signed Lacazette. Yeah, definitely signed Lacazette. Well, there's a reason all the big clubs aren't signing him, isn't there? Probably. So. I think the whole Benteke.
I think he's the kind of player. He's caught a little bit in between two stools, and he thinks he might be good enough to play for a very, very big club, but none of them are quite going to go in for him. I'm not sure. But anyway, sorry, Benteke.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Someone could buy Lacazette, and it turns into like a Torres type signing where all of a sudden over here he starts scoring every game. But it could be completely the other way, couldn't it?
Yeah. Well, for me, those are one of them.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need more than one of them, do you?
That's the one. Well, I wouldn't want us to do two of them.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's major gambling, then, isn't it?
Exactly. Especially when that would be 60 million quid at least on two. Unproven.
There's that, but there's also the idea of here as well. I mean, Firmino originally, the more you hear about him, the more it's quite clear he's an attacker. We bought 2 attackers in Benteke, and we bought 3 if you count Ings. Origi's come in. It's 4. There's this, last season Liverpool scored 24 league goals in 20 games against the bottom 10, home and away, Paul. 24 league goals in 20 games. Of all the things that went on last season, I would argue, with a little bit of passage of time happening, certainly after the last game of the season, that's arguably the most disgraceful. 24 goals in 20 games against the bottom 10.
Yeah.
This is, so you've got these 2 lads in for big money. If you go off the basis of, on average one works, one doesn't, well, if either of them work, they're both capable of 20 goal seasons. That's happened in the last 2 years, 3 years for both of them. If you're looking at all this, you're able to go, well, one of them works.
Yeah.
That fixes that problem.
Yeah, definitely. And I was saying to Steve off air that there's an interview with Rodgers on the official website, which I think is going to be a sort of a long one, which is coming soon, but there's a snippet of it, which you'll love, because he's talking about goals. And he references when he first came in, going back to the whole thing of, the first thing I said was there's not enough goals, and then the season after that we sorted that, and that all sort of got ruined last year, so that's what we're going back to, and we've been buying goals effectively, so he's on message.
Well, I think it's massive to say that clearly, it's £75 million worth of goals that are being added.
Yeah.
£75 million worth. Now, the summer before, it's 20. It's Benteke, sorry, it's Balotelli and Lambert. It's 20 million that got added.
Yeah.
These lads are forwards. 4 forwards are coming in. £75 million has been paid for them in total. Yes, Origi was the season before, but he's not kicked it for Liverpool, so that he should be counted in this season.
Yeah.
If Liverpool spend 100 million this summer, which they're in the vicinity of doing in the end, 75% of it will have been spent on lads who stick the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, and that's without talking about the likes of Milner, who will score goals, and Lallana, who will score more goals this season than he did last season.
And you can see that I think Henderson and Coutinho as well.
Yeah, I agree.
They're continuing to develop as footballers and add more goals to their game.
Absolutely. Well, there's an interview with him on the website as well where he says that. What's your personal target this year? Well, you want to score more goals, yeah. Henderson. And I think it's hard to read things from pre-season, isn't it? But we will anyway and get carried away. But you can tell he's going to love playing with Milner. Imagine playing against them in midfield. You'd be like, I keep saying, it's like when you play 5-a-side and the lad you're marking is fitter than you, and you'll have after about 10 minutes you'll be like, mate, any chance of just having a breather for a minute? Just give me a chance. It's only a game of
Why'd you care so much?
Yeah. You make me look like a tit. But on the Benteke point, I know lots of people have made and Melissa's done some great articles making very coherent arguments about why he's not the right man. And right from the start, I've thought, I'm not sure I completely agree with that. There was a great post on, I don't know who it was, so apologies whoever that was, but someone did a post who was a Villa fan, and it's been sent around about Benteke, and if you ask Villa fans, they'll all say he's well worth 32 million quid. And it was funny because I was down in London last weekend chatting to a mate who's a Sheffield United fan, so he's got no vested interest in any of this, and he asked me about Sterling, and he said to me, is he really worth anywhere near that? Whenever I've seen him, he looks rubbish. And when I told him that, in my opinion and the opinion of lots of Liverpool fans who watch him all the time, if he stays on this trajectory, he could be one of the best players in the world. He was my mate was absolutely shocked. I said he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. He's a great footballer for his age. And he couldn't believe it because he doesn't watch him all the time, so he doesn't know. So when you've got Villa fans saying, think about these stats and then think how often he played in a Lambert side.
I think it works. I mean, it works both ways, doesn't it? Because Newcastle fans would have said the same about Carroll probably at the time as well, And I think you always see what you want to see. And I mean, I think Liverpool fans seem to have diverged from this in that most clubs fans think their players are much better than they are Whereas
Yeah, we're the
we've
opposite.
become quite keen to just find someone else in the squad who might be better than them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's by no means cut and dried that he's not the right man. I don't
No,
think. I think that's
Well, on
it
this,
seems to have taken hold in a way that I don't quite understand.
I do understand to a certain extent, because I think that his resurgence towards the end of last season with playing with Sherwood occurs in quite a direct fashion. Not that Liverpool didn't play direct football 13-14. It's worth remembering that Liverpool were not shy about pumping it down the channels. Daniel Sturridge's lob against Everton to make it 3-0 and create the greatest fume the world's ever seen comes from a long hoofed ball from Toure. So it's important to point that out. But
Liverpool were very direct, and it's a different type of direct. Maybe in 2013, it was very much about getting forward as quickly as we can.
Yeah,
You know,
and everyone references that Sturridge goal, but Suarez, we played very direct with Suarez. When you've got a player like, I remember against Arsenal last year, thinking if we had a Suarez type, not necessarily Suarez up front, we could take them apart here because they're so high up the pitch. And we tried a couple of times because Sterling was our main man up front. It didn't work.
The ball doesn't stick.
It doesn't stick there. Whereas
That's
if
what
you've
Chelsea
got,
do with Costa.
Exactly. And we did that loads with Suarez. I remember the Stoke away game, just a massive punt up, and because Suarez is a little nasty get, the defenders just shit themselves, and we get a goal out of it.
And he's also 6 foot tall, and everyone thinks he's little, but he's 6 foot tall, and he wins his headers.
Yeah. And his control is perfect.
On Benteke, so then the start of the season he's playing under Paul Lambert, and basically I think, what was the mad stats, Steve? Something like they'd only scored 12 goals in 22 games at one point.
Like I mean, he's also injured.
He's also had injuries there. Season before 13-14 is when the wheels start to fall off for Lambert. It's 2012-2013 that I'm interested in his time in Aston Villa. He gets 19 goals in 34 games. He scores 4 and 5 in the League Cup, so he ends the season with 23 and 39. And that was after that was around the time when, for instance, Villa were playing more counter-attack football. I think it's fair to say, Steve, I think if you spoke to Villa supporters, they'd tell you they were playing a style of football that was more counter-attacking.
Yeah.
That was what they were about at that stage. It wasn't the Lambert, we're just going to hit the big man and stick it, and we're going to come up the pitch in phases. They were very much about the sort of football that Lambert had been looking to play at Norwich.
Yeah, and maybe closer in some senses to what to a Brent. Lambert and Rodgers were quite closely compared at the time in terms of their style of football and bringing this kind of style of play. And I think when you've got better players, that can look better. When you've got less good players, it looks like you're just sort of a one trick pony. But Lambert, he won a lot of games against bigger sides. I think they became very good at doing that, but maybe not so good at imposing themselves on sides lower down in the league. But when you've got better players, you should be able to do that.
It's there's the as with all these things, it'll be seen over time. If it doesn't work for him, Paul, if it doesn't work for Firmino, it doesn't work for any of them. There's a variety of factors. It's not even necessarily to do with the wrong player. It could be that simply they've not settled. That happens for footballers all the time. I think we're beyond the point now, aren't we, of thinking that. And also transfers, they're just not binary. They succeed or they fail. But I think the core thing for me is Liverpool go into the season with 5 lads up front: Benteke, Firmino, Sturridge, Ings, and Origi. How are you fitting them in? I mean, this is the key thing here. You think Sturridge I think will remain the highest paid player at the club. Benteke is the second, will end up, once it all goes through, the second highest amount of money we've ever spent on a footballer. Firmino ends up the third highest amount we've ever spent on a footballer. You're thinking that those three are going to start, surely?
Well, I think this is the interesting thing, and this is one of the reasons I'm so excited now. We're not going to be going into the season talking about Sturridge, which last season that just dominated what we spoke about.
Yeah.
And this season, no one's talking about him already, which is great, because we're thinking, well, if we get Benteke, and then on top of that, you've got 2 young lads who've come in, and throughout our lifetimes, young lads get brought into Liverpool, and where is it United, the likes of Ronaldo, over a few seasons get to be brought into the team and developed without loads of pressure. We've always had to throw them in and said, come on lad, you need to score 20 goals now. So Ings and Origi now get to ease themselves in gently, because Benteke is the main man when Sturridge isn't there. I think it's clear from pre-season so far, he's either going to play a 4-4-2 diamond or he's going to play 4-3-3.
The diamond's back, isn't it, in a big way?
I think so. And what that means
He's got the midfield personnel for it now.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But what that means is it's Benteke and Sturridge, or while Sturridge is out, it's Benteke and one other in that front two, which means you can play Origi there, or you can play
Firmino.
Ings there, or you can play Firmino there, and there's less pressure on them. And the Firmino one as well, because of the other players we've got in that position, he doesn't even necessarily need to come straight into the team. So when you start having this conversation of where does everyone play, think of Arsenal. They don't all play. That's the point. And people keep saying, I keep hearing Liverpool fans say, well, you just can't get them all in your team. And you're like, yeah, that's the point. Like, how many seasons have you ever gone through where all of your players stay fit all season and in form all season? This is great, because now when Coutinho has those moments where he's dipping in form a little bit, you bring in another lad who's just as good.
We've been doing the history shows about 95, 96, and the big sort of conclusion you end up drawing there is that you're that one extra different thing short. And it suddenly feels like we've got lots of different things.
Yeah.
And you can look at how it fits, and you can look at where Lallana fits, you look at where Markovic fits, you look at all these other players who offer, create chances and potentially score goals as well, to try and fit into the side. But it's good problems to have, sure.
But also, and this goes back to a point I made 2 years ago, which I was thinking about the other day, about Jordan Ibe. We're in the Europa League now, not the Champions League.
Yeah.
So we've got a load of games now where all these people can play as well. Ings, Origi, Gomez, Ibe can all play loads of European football this year.
There's also, I think, the manager turns up in 12-13, having played at Swansea, and it's quite clear his preferred formation's 4-3-3. I think that he's spoken subsequently every now and again. He's mentioned 3-4-3, and the diamond obviously went well for him, Steve. But he can. My issue with 4-3-3 has historically been it's not half easy for it to become 4-5-1. It's not half easy for suddenly you're putting wide midfielders in areas where it should be three attackers. Yeah. And I think that this is the big one for me. Liverpool can play, and this was when it really began to kick off under Rodgers, when it really began to go well, was when he was able to effectively select Suarez, Sturridge, and Sterling, three lads who you can pretty much nail on as forwards. On the pitch at the same time, when he's got three forwards in there. And I think this is what I'm most excited about is, it is this idea that Coutinho is back in midfield. Coutinho is not in this, as in the 3-4-2-1 last season, where Coutinho was almost having to play as a forward. He's now back in midfield, prompting and probing. Not every game, I'm sure against the bigger sides we would be a bit more solid in these early away games that we've got. But I think, basically for the sides who aren't that top four, you can see us really being able to pick three real attacking options, and then behind them conceivably having Coutinho, Milner and Henderson.
I think I think Benteke is probably the only one that has to be central. I don't think he has to be. I think he can come. I think he can certainly come in off the left. I mean, you see him score quite a lot of goals doing that, even playing as a central striker. But I think, if you're looking at Firmino, Sturridge, Ings, all these players can move across the forward line and give you that flexibility. So you could definitely see the 4-3-3 and the diamond being a two.
But being a proper 4-3-3, and that's the key thing, I think.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm most excited about. There's Paul, to get these lads on the pitch. And as I say, there's three he's definitely going to want to get on the pitch as much as possible if they're all fit in the league. And then behind them, you've got the idea that, Ings isn't coming not to play. Origi needs to get time, whether it's Europa League or anything else. Then you've got Ibe, then you've got Markovic, then you've got Lallana. And I don't, none of these lads are Suso having to play in a mad position, which it was when he first arrived. Or, if you go back to the start of sort of 13-14, where, 3 or 4 times there was a midfielder.
We're not naming many players here who you wouldn't pick for a league game. Like the times we've had weirdos, just players who you just wouldn't, like Asaidi, and it was unfair to single him out only, but you just wouldn't really pick him in a league game, would you? No. You look at him and go, well, okay, he'll play in a Europa League game. He might look all right, he might not, but I'm not going to be picking him in a game. I'm not going to be picking him when Man United come. That's just not happening. But now we've got names. You've got 5. You've got 5 on the bench probably who you would pick in league games if you had to.
Well, I think it goes as far as you're going to have people who aren't even on the bench.
Yeah.
Who fall into that category, who could get in. Yeah. And that's why I think the Europa League is actually positive for us this year, because it helps you keep everyone happy. Because these lads want to play. I think the likes of Markovic and Chan are going to have interesting seasons.
I didn't even think about Emre Can.
I know.
In all of that, when I was thinking of everything in my head then.
And think about this year. This, for me, I think this could be a really big season for Markovic, because this is the season he should kick on. He's had the year to settle in. Everyone expects Firmino. It's almost, you should buy these players and then say to everyone, forget about them until next summer. So this summer's big attacking midfielder signing is Markovic. because he's had a year to settle in. Because Firmino, the same thing could happen. It could go the other way. I think Firmino, we all get excited about him because he could be the one who turns up in
he's
the
older,
league.
He's
older, he's got more experience, but he could be the one who turns up in this league and does that thing we've talked about in the past, where he has a look at the other players in the league for a game or 2 or 10 minutes and goes, really? Like, you are all shite, and then just start scoring hat trick after hat trick. That could conceivably happen with Firmino. But I think that's what I think. Even looking at the teams he's picking in pre-season, I think it will be whoever plays at the base of the midfield that'll determine each game how we're playing and who we're playing against. Because at home, that player will be a more attacking player.
So if you are playing Diamond, who are you playing at the base of the midfield?
Well, I'm playing potentially when you're away from home to the big boys, you're playing Lucas there, and when you're at home,
or someone with a big physical striker,
centre forward, and when you're home or away to any of the bottom half of the table, you play one of, or they rotate, Milner, Henderson. Yeah, probably Milner or Henderson, or maybe Chan there, because they've got more of that attacking drive. Because actually, you don't need someone to just sit there and be a screen for your defence in those games. And then you bring Coutinho or Lallana into the other side of the diamond. So these lads are all attackers.
If I've got Milner and Henderson in my diamonds, left and right, I'm playing Alan at the base.
Oh yeah.
Who are you playing at the apex?
At the tip of the diamond.
Yeah. Because I'm
really tempted to say Markovic, but I mean Firmino. I think that's. But then
so you're not playing Coutinho.
Well, obviously, okay. There's games when.
Because what I'd say
I don't know.
This is my thing. This is the problem.
I'd play. Just to do this quick. Someone asked me about this, and I've written an article that's going to go up on the site quickly. I agree. The idea that I think for these early games, these away games, I think you're going to see Lucas in there. Then you're going to see some combination of Milner, Henderson, Lallana, Coutinho, 3 from that 4 ahead, and then you'll see a front 2 for these early away games. But I actually think you might be more likely to see Milner at the apex and Coutinho at the sides than maybe the other way around. Coutinho's done a lot of his better football there. That's where you might see a little bit of Lallana. I think Markovic is in a bad shout.
Coutinho gets to face the play more in that role.
Exactly.
As when you're playing at the apex, you're going to be back to goal a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas, from say on the left,
and I think that's for those tougher games. Then I think you're looking at 4-2-1-3 against the poorer sides at home. I think you're looking at basically what you said before: Milner and Henderson, 2 in there, quite a high line, saying we're going to have more of the ball, we're going to squeeze the play. We've got so much energy in here, you can't live with us. Milner, Henderson, Coutinho, we've got energy, we've got technique, we can pass the ball, and then a front 3 which is made up of 3 nailed on forwards or 2 nailed on forwards and Lallana. And I think that, all 2 nailed on forwards and maybe occasionally Ibe.
So you're playing a high line, so who's your back 4?
Then your back 4, I think it's going to start the season as Skrtel, Sakho. I'm mildly... I find it easier. I'm basically just ended up saying my article aloud. I find it easier to envisage, and I think it's a shame he sort of seems to have semi-ruled it out himself. I find it easier to actually envisage Emre Can at centre-half for the first 10-12 games of the season, certainly for these home games against the poorer sides, than I actually do to find a place for him at the base of the midfield. I'd be playing safe in terms of I'd want Lucas's experience, and then. But the whole point about this, and this is I think a major thing, is it's a long season. It's it's 9 months, and I think that what you need for what you need in these early away games isn't necessarily what you need at the base of your midfield come January when you're playing sides who've already been through a bit of a long campaign, who are now they're not as good as these sides that we've got all at the start of the season, who will do a bit more long ball maybe. Then you can possibly put the argument to say, and now Emre Can comes into his own, and now he finds his way into this side. But I do think the bedrock of it will be that most weeks Henderson and Milner are playing, and then it's the next question is what you're doing with Coutinho. And for me the most important thing is that Coutinho plays in midfield, because that I think frees up everything else. It frees up everyone else to go and be proper attackers. That's my one on this.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually think Emre Can will be, sadly, a bit of the forgotten man in the first half of the season, because I don't see where he fits in. He's not going to play as a centre-back in the first part, and I don't think he should in a 2. And I don't see him playing in the base of the midfield, purely because I just don't think he's got the mobility that the others have got that Rodgers is going to want this year. My big thing about the players we've bought, in addition to the goals, is how many of them are described as aggressive. I heard Lallana talking about Klein because they've been on holiday and that, and one of the first words he used to describe him was aggressive. Benteke, aggressive. Milner, aggressive. Firmino, aggressive. And this is clearly Rodgers going back to even his backroom staff. they're all about the aggressive press.
Every one of these lads, they look like Brendan Rodgers. It looks like basically we've gone. Let's think about the thing that we've got, the thing that we've decided to invest our time and energy into, and actually go with that, and commit to it, which makes sense. Whether I think lots of people don't want Brendan Rodgers to be Liverpool's manager, but if he is, then let's commit to that.
Yeah.
Because what's the point otherwise?
Yeah,
I think I again completely agree with that, and I think that there's loads of things that I think went wrong last season, and I think they started to go wrong in July. They went wrong in July. They went wrong in November. They went wrong as March turned into April. That's where things went wrong last season, and I agree with that, Steve. I think there's lots and lots of. It does look like things have been learned, and I think the big thing about this as well is that if it doesn't work, then it makes any subsequent decision, frankly, easier. Yeah. In that you can go, well, you've learned from all this. We're now doing it this way. You've got these personnel in to help coach and get these players going. Plus McAllister, you've got the bits and pieces that you need. You haven't got, if he was a millstone, Johnson to try to fit in somewhere. You haven't got yourself in this position where if he was a millstone, and I think he was at times for a variety of reasons last season, Gerrard to try and fit in somewhere. Mm-hmm. What you've got instead is you've got these footballers who seem to want to do what you want them to do. And Milner, after the last pre-season friendly, all of his quotes were along, this is what we've got, a good set of lads here. It'll all work for each other. It'll all work hard. We want to go and win the ball back, Paul. It's this aggression.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with Steve. And I think FSG have played an absolute blinder. They've put themselves in, from their perspective, a no-lose situation. Back the manager that you picked as a young manager who you think wants to play the way you want to play. Back him this time. Don't give him any excuses, because they'll have had behind-the-scenes words with each other, won't they? Where he said to them, well, look, I was screwed from the end of the summer last year. And that's why we've ended up paying the release clause for Benteke, because they've gone. I think in hindsight they've gone.
I wish they'd paid more.
I wish
I'd have paid 35.5 million.
Yeah, just to
get that sorted.
Yeah, but I think they probably do look back at the Sanchez thing now and say, if we'd have thrown an extra 5 million at it, would it have? Because they don't know. If we'd have thrown extra 5 million, would we have got him? And if we did, would our scene have been completely different? Probably. We'd have probably got in the top 4. In which case that 5 million quid looks like nothing now. So I think they've learned lessons, but I do think, and especially whilst the shadow of Klopp is lurking around Europe in the background, I think everybody will look at it from day one. Hopefully everyone will get on board, support Brendan Rodgers. He's got the players he wanted. He'll play in the way, hopefully, that we all want him to play and he wants to play. Yeah. If that doesn't work and it goes catastrophically wrong, which I'm not sure how that happens, but if it does, you can say, well, there are no excuses. Yeah. And he'll say, absolutely. And I think he would say, wouldn't he? He'd hold his hands up and say, well, yeah.
This is the season, isn't it? This is the one where it works. You have to define what works means and what that involves. I think some people will set such a high bar now because they just want the manager gone. Yeah. But I think it's about a feeling, isn't it? It's about feeling like things are moving in the right direction as much as anything, and enjoying it.
And that's the major thing. The season's about to, it starts a lot sooner than you think. It's now 20 days away. I think the other thing to point out as well is that the season does start this early, and I don't see there being any more business in terms of people coming in, Paul. So we've nailed it. If Benteke signs this week, then we've got it done by the 22nd, 23rd of July. We'll still be linked to people. I think there'll still be talk around the edges. And if a player came up, it wouldn't surprise me if we maybe moved for them. If it was someone who we've had our eye on for a while or something. But on the whole, I don't really see there being another move. There was talk that Lucas might be on his bike. There's been that sort of talk in the background for 18 months. Yet he's been very vocal. In a manner which suggests it's quite the opposite, that he's got quite a senior role, so you don't really see how you fit. You're already saying Emre Can might prove to be the forgotten man. It's difficult to see how you fit another midfielder in there. I don't see another centre back coming in. Gomez may well have helped solve this question mark around fullbacks, possibly. Certainly if Andre Wisdom continues to do okay as well, it's you want to see people get given opportunities, and when they're given chances, take them. This could be it for the business. There could only be the outs to come.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's anything else. I think they've done really well. I think it's funny because I was about to say, because you've got to look at the likes of United. Have got a lot of people to buy still, and as you say, we're only pretty much 3 weeks away from the start of the season.
Well, weirdly, United keep buying people and still seem to look like they still need to buy them.
Yeah, but I suppose it just shows how much they needed to do, doesn't it? Like they still need a couple probably of really big, one at least big attackers. The thing,
a goalkeeper.
The thing with possibly. The thing with the Benteke thing, just go back to that, is it does sort of show how big the gulf is between the likes of us and United still, when they're immediately linked with the likes of Lewandowski and Thomas Muller, because they have got the financial resources to go, well, we'll just go and make it happen. I've seen it's in the papers today that they're after Bale again. But they've still got to do all that ultimately. And it's the big thing of the 3 or 4 games before the window
4 games
shuts.
before the window closes.
So you get that right. You get those 4 games right and get a bit of a head start on people, or even because our games are so tough, just get some good results in there with the players you've bedded in. It is exciting. And I was thinking today, when the Benteke news is confirmed, imagine being in the squad in Australia. These lads, there's interviews, Rodgers saying everyone he's got this real sense of them, like they're really feeling ambitious this year. Henderson saying everyone's settled in dead well, the vibes, they're good. Milner saying the team spirit's great. And you're all saying to yourselves, and do you know when we get back and we play in Helsinki, lads, Coutinho, Firmino and Benteke are going to be with us. Imagine dropping those 3 lads into this group now, and them all. I can picture that thing in training, where they see Firmino do a few tricks, and they're looking at each other going, "It's all right, this isn't it? Might score a few goals here."
The fullback thing is interesting, Steve. Taking the temperature of it right now. In that, Gomez impresses in the opportunities that he's had so far, and also with them being at left back as well. And also, there's the Flanagan thing in the background there. We seem to suit a sensible lad at left back doing sensible things. He might even be on his wrong foot because it means he's looking to come inside.
Yeah, just being told to back himself. I think we've talked a lot about buying young centre backs being a mistake because you can't play them and you end up they wither on the vine. I think that applies to someone like Quates, who you can't move, but Gomez, if you can move them, if you can play them along the back line, it's what Manchester United have done with young defenders for years. They play right back, they play left back. Everyone goes, why isn't he playing centre back? It's because they're not ready, maybe. But I can see him getting some games at centre back. I was thinking about that high line question, and I was like, who's going to be our 2 pacier centre backs? And it's Sakho and him. So I don't know. We'll see how he goes, but he's very confident, and he looks just really very Brendan Rodgers. It looks very much like a lad who Rodgers has said, you just back yourself in this position.
Well, and it was really,
and I'm pleased about that from his point of view, and I'm pleased that that feels to me a bit more like Brendan Rodgers, the one that I want to see.
Very much so. It was interesting, his post-match press conference after the Brisbane game, I think, and he got asked, will he be going out on loan? And he said emphatically no.
He said, having seen him up close, work with him now, he's like, no chance.
That was really. I thought it was really interesting, that, because he basically was talking about his character as well, not just his time on the pitch. And you can see that through his time on the pitch, Connie. You were saying off air before that he just looks so comfortable. It's so confident, but that you've got to give Rodgers credit for that, haven't you, already? And it's pre-season, blah blah blah, playing against shite, but he looks so comfortable on the ball. I was saying to Steve off air, when I first saw him, I thought, is he left-footed? Why is he playing right back when he's left-footed? But he's just comfortable on both sides. He's a big unit. He's quick, and I think the Flanagan thing is a really good point, because Rodgers will have said to him, and he said openly, he'll get game time. He'll have said to him, look, mate, we nearly won the league, and Flanagan nailed down a place at left back in this team. Your competition is Moreno. Well, he didn't get in the team every week last year, and we didn't have any other left backs really that I wanted to pick. So it's up to you.
There's lots of these little, and this is the other. You mentioned the Europa League thing as well before, Paul. There's lots of these little markers in the squad. It's easy to say that this squad's short of experience, because not least because in a couple of key areas it sort of is. You've lost a Gerrard now. You've lost a Lambert, not a Lambert, a Johnson. You've had a Milner, and I think that's important. Milner can do a lot there, but I think there is the idea of, look at John Flanagan. Talk to John Flanagan. He put the extra hours in. He did what he did. He's there. He's still around the squad, even though he's not fully fit. There's something that you can learn from this. This is where talked before about where does Emre Can get his place, but does the Europa League. If Emre Can finds himself not getting his games, well, let's talk to Jordan Henderson. 3 years ago, Jordan Henderson was finished. He was out of Liverpool. Yeah. Talk him going somewhere else, and now he's Liverpool captain. And this comes, he gets his games through the Europa League. If Emre Can, I'm not saying he will have to go down that route, but if Emre Can does go down that route, well, there's a load of time here.
Yeah.
There's a load of time to get your football in, and I think that this is a massive thing. And there's loads of these lads I think dotted around the squad. Lucas is another good one. He's had a tough start when he's first come to the club, got over it over a period of time, shifted positions. There is, for all the talk of, is there enough experience? They've actually experienced, a lot of these lads have actually had to experience quite a lot in playing for Liverpool.
Well, you've got Mignolet, the players who've overcome something, I guess. So I mean, Sturridge, I suppose, is going to be another one, potentially, in terms of going through stuff in your career that can set you back, but that hopefully won't long term. And then you've got Kolo Touré there, who's done everything.
So do you think that's overstated, Steve, then, this idea that we're short of a bit of experience?
Well, I think have we not got more league winners than we've probably had for some time? I mean, so that's two, Touré and Milner. Because Touré was the first for a while, wasn't he? He'd actually done it. I don't know if there's any others.
I think
maybe not.
I think
two is more than one. But
Glenn
two
is more than one. It is 100% more.
A good point.
Glenn Johnson might well have picked knocked about whilst he was at Chelsea.
Yeah,
and he may well have qualified. But yes, I think it's fair to say Touré and Milner have played key roles in more than one league win each. Yeah,
but also
you pulled that one out for us there.
Cheers.
I think you've got to think what is it you want in experience? What does that mean? Do you want loads of old lads who've done nothing in their careers?
Well, I mean, Ricky Lambert's experienced
exactly, and what can he teach?
And I'm not saying he's an old lad who's done nothing. I'm just saying that he's someone who brought experience and probably brought things, and has brought things to the squad, and noticeably is the one of the three who Roger chooses to take on tour and give a game to.
Yeah, that's true.
Compared to Balotelli and Barini.
Yeah. But I think the lad you've got, I think Touré and Milner are the type of experience you want from a competition perspective of knowing how to win things and what goes with winning things.
But also that positivity you said, I mean, Milner has come in and said, I think he said he was surprised by the number of good players. I think he always said, I didn't realise just how many good players we had.
Yeah.
I think he'll be telling that to him. He'll be saying to Markovic, you're a really good player.
Yeah,
you're a dead good player, and I've played with good players.
Yeah,
you're one of them.
I do. I think that's going to happen. I think it's his impact is going to be similar to Touré coming into a squad and going to them. You're good, lads. You could win the league. Like if you think City are better than yous, they're not. Like I've played there for ages, and now I'm here. Yous are all boss. And even like you can use the Sterling example. People go, "Oh, Sterling wouldn't get a game at City." Well, he will. He'll walk into their team because Navas and Nasri got 2 goals between them last season. And Sterling got 7 or 8 or whatever it was in a much worse team. So he walks into their first team, and he was maybe our second best player last season, and he walks into their first team above maybe 2 of their players. So Milner could point to that to our squad and say, "Yeah, lads, you're great. Look at this." And then in amongst that, you've got the lads you mentioned. You've got Lucas who's been through loads. Henderson is only 24, but been through a lot.
He's got so many games under his belt.
Yeah, and. So what more do you need than that? I think, because then the likes of McAllister coming into the squad, Henderson's already referenced that. He's lost Gerrard, but now he's got McAllister as this sounding board, as this lad he can just have a chat with and he can guide him and all of that.
And he doesn't have to do any of his running.
Yes.
Apart from when they play 5-0s. Yeah. I like the idea that Henderson's like, I'm not going on McAllister's in 5-0s, lads. Yeah. I've been doing this for 2 years. Just very, very quick then, this idea. I think the other thing which I'd like to, as we're just ploughing through, is 100 mile an hour. I think the other thing, Steve, as well, is we're right to point out that Man United will be really good, that Chelsea will be really good, that Man City will be really good, and that Arsenal will be really good. But I don't think Spurs are going to be really good, and I don't think Southampton are going to be really good, and I think Stoke are going to be better than they were last season. I think Stoke will be quietly quite impressive, but they're still not going to be really good. And I think my point here is, as much as I've got, I think the work that Paul Tompkins does is brilliant work, and I think it's always worth referencing and being aware of as to exactly how big the mountain Liverpool have got to climb is. But we only played those lads who could conceivably have a better first 11 and a better bench than us 8 times. We play all these other lads who we should have a better first 11 and a better bench than 30 times. Yeah. And that's where you get your points from first. You've got to be able to take the points off the 30 before you even think about the 8.
Yeah, and just make them give up, make them submit. And I think players like Benteke are those kind of players they've seen score goals against them consistently. Who just, they immediately are like, well, I remember playing against him and, he battered me for 90 minutes. We remember that. Oddly, he's a player who every time we played against him, he's absolutely battered us. Yeah. And everyone's gone, well, we should sign him. And then the minute we actually wanted to sign him, I went, oh no, fucking hell, don't want to sign him. Yeah, no, I think that is exactly right. Becoming flat track bullies is absolutely key because we're quite good against big sides. You know, we've got a decent record against certainly against City. I think, you know, and we beat Spurs home and away. We've done well against United under Rodgers. Broadly speaking, I think it's not that we're going to struggle. I think against those big sides because they can only field 11, and we've talked about our 11 being very far from definite in a really positive sense. And those players like Firmino, who we just don't know what their ceiling is.
Yeah, and I think as well on the beating everybody else view, everyone keeps talking about our first 8 away games against all these tough teams, but in between that, are our first 2 home games Bournemouth and Norwich?
I don't think it's Norwich. It's I'll find out for you now, but keep talking.
But my point is, in between these games, you've got opportunities to say, "But batter them."
Well, you have to not treat Stoke as a tough. You know, you have to not go into Stoke going, "Oh, well, that's going to be one of our tough games."
Well,
because Stoke will finish. They may well finish 8th or even 7th, I think, this season, and they'll do really well. But that shouldn't be. We need to be saying that's not a tough game. That's a game we go in confident that we can win.
Yeah, and funny you should say that because in Henderson's interview, he says
West Ham's our second home.
Okay. So, in fact, I'm happy with that than Norwich because I think you may have said this already. The newly promoted teams early in the season are more difficult because they've still got this enthusiasm and coming to Anfield for the first time and all this. Whereas West Ham have got a new manager. You don't know how good they're going to be. They've already played a load of games before we've even got to play them. We could batter them conceivably. If it was a Big Sam team, I'd be thinking, oh God, but we could batter them. And
strong home record against them for a few years as well.
And so if you beat these teams at home, you beat Stoke first game just on that point. Henderson basically said, players aren't asked about the fixture list. We're glad that we're playing Stoke again because it helps to put us that behind us. You beat Stoke first game of the season and put that behind you and do it well. Then you beat Bournemouth at home. Then you beat West Ham at home. All those lower teams start thinking, you don't want to play Liverpool, Jesus. Yeah. And once you've got that in their heads,
you start looking at your calendar. You look at your game at Anfield in November, and you go, well, we've got Norwich away. Yeah. Then we go to Anfield. Then we've got West Ham away. Well, I know which 2 of them games I'm going to focus on for points. Whereas last season it became too much like we've got Anfield away. We'll have a go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got Liverpool away. We'll have a go.
Absolutely.
I think that's a core factor. I think that's got to happen early though, and these early games that we're getting to, you know, they will be important. I think for all that sort of stuff. But it is just to begin to sort of sum up as we go. The core thing I think is we're not. I've got a big problem at the moment. I think that because you watch so many games of football, you're able to watch so many games of football. I think there's 2 things. We're not. Not only are we not playing the best 4 sides in our league, we're also not playing Bayern Munich, Real Madrid or Barcelona. We don't have to be as good as them. The aim is not to be as good as them. The aim is just simply it is eventually, it is over a couple 3-4 seasons, you know, that should always be the aim. But right now, this season, this summer, Paul, the aim is not to be able to go to the Bernabeu and get a result. We haven't got to do that, you know, because we are in the Europa League, but also because the priority is the league title. It is the Football League Championship. It is all of those things, finishing as high as we can. You know, it takes in a certain sense that pressure off. You haven't got to build a squad for that. You've got to build a squad for those 30 games against those sides that are going to come in somewhere ideally between 5th and 20th.
Yeah, and this is also where being in the Europa League and not in the Champions League makes a difference, because last season we did have to try and compete with Real Madrid. We had to play them in the Bernabeu and play them at Anfield, and you have to play your best team. And if you don't play what everyone perceives to be your best team, you get loads of grief. Whereas now he can go and he can come out and say, which he has in the past, we're gonna play lads who need games in the Europa League and the young lads to get experience. So he could actually say, I've got 2 teams.
But they now are lads who need, like, you know, it's not Barini. It's not a lad who isn't going to be a first team player for Liverpool ever. You know, isn't going to be a consistent. They are lads who are genuinely getting games for a purpose that serves Liverpool Football Club.
Well, there's this debate at the moment, isn't there, about, and it was touched on in the Rick Parry interview, that where's the reserve league? Where do lads get a game if they're not under 21? How do you make that step up? The Europa League can almost be our reserve league this year, and we could win the Europa League with lads who aren't playing in the league.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Say to Markovic and Chan, win the Europa League, lads, and you'll play. We'll play you all. We'll play you right the way through. Go and win it.
Yeah.
Score loads of goals. Be great. This is what we'll do. Say to Pep.
I'm not going on Twitter before the final And Firmino scored 35 in the league, and we're not picking him. And Markovic is playing tip of the diamond. I'm not going on Twitter.
No.
For the 2 hours
No, we'll
before
just
that
turn it
final.
off. We'll just
Absolutely
turn it
not.
off for a week.
Absolutely not.
In the preparation.
It's getting carried away is the most phenomenal thing about pre-season. That's what it's meant to make you do. And Liverpool have done it early this campaign. I think you can be pleased about that.
Has anyone ever done the quadruple?
No one's done the treble.
I'll tell you, there'd be the domestic treble.
Yeah.
No one's done the domestic treble, Steve.
We'll
You're obsessed with the domestic treble.
Well, I just don't know why no one's done it. It just seems to make sense that someone would have done it, doesn't it? Like, we've won the League Cup about 1 million times.
Yeah.
Well, Paisley couldn't win the FA Cup.
No, I know.
Paisley couldn't win the FA Cup, and I think not maybe for slightly similar reasons. I don't think Mourinho often has these mad cup exits. Like Bradford last season, because he's thinking about the league, obviously, and he's thinking about the thinking about the FA Cup. He's thinking about the Champions League. So he gets himself in this situation where something's got to give, and it so often seems to be that FA Cup. So Steve, that domestic treble is open if you want to push for it.
Yeah.
That domestic treble. I'll tell you what, the Anfield Wrap this week. It's always nice to buy a centre forward, and there's lots and lots of sensible reasons and points to be made that maybe Liverpool have ended up buying the wrong one. But what you can't fault is Liverpool have sat down, they've looked at what's happened last season, they've looked at it all, and they've gone, you know what we need to do? Last time I ever need to say this, do you know what we need to do? We need to buy goals.